We are into Monday morning and we've got the playoffs, a few games behind us, and we're in the ALCS, and so we got to break it down. Good morning, everybody. I'm back. My voice, it's about 95% completely well, but not all the way. So at least you know who it is. It's Arnie, and we're talking baseball this morning on Arnie's Fantasy World of Sports. And, of course, we've got the Yankees and Astros. What a game last night. Did you guys stay up and watch Correa with that late swing on Sunday night in the Yankees' dreams of going back home 2-0? And we've got the National League. We got a 2-0 advantage in favor of the Nationals. So we're going to talk about both divisions this morning. We're going to start off with the National League, the NLCS, which resumes action today. And the reason I want to start there is so far it has been nothing but the Nationals. Have you looked at the stats? I mean, stats don't lie. So far in the two games, the Cardinals are 4 for 57 batting as a team. That's an .070 average. And if you want an argument for the designated hitter, here's one. Jose Martinez for the Cardinals is 2 for 2. If you take his 2 for 2 out of the statistics, all of a sudden now the Cardinals are a paltry 2 for 55. That's right. 2 for 55 absent Martinez in the lineup. And today, you're talking about a pitcher's duel. At 7:38 p.m. tonight at Nationals Park in Washington, D.C., you've got Jack Flaherty going for the visiting Cardinals and Steven Strasburg going for the Washington Nationals. And so you got to think going into this series, it was pretty even. Looking at the series now, the Nationals can't hit. The Cardinals can't hit. Not against the Nationals pitching. Now, looking at the game tonight, the most important player, I think, historically against Strasburg has been Marcell Ozuna, who has 3 home runs in his career against Steven Strasburg, who has done absolutely nothing so far in the series. And so it's time for the Cardinal bats to wake up. I want to go back and just look at these box scores. Of course, game 1 was Friday. The Nationals win 2-0. And you look at the box, Sanchez pitched an incredible game. He went 7 2/3, struck out 5, only allowed 1 hit. That's the only hit that he allowed that the Cardinals had all night. And that hit was Jose Martinez, a pitch hit single. Again, big argument for the DH this morning if you're a Cardinals fan, because you want Martinez in that lineup, considering he had the only hit Friday night. And then we look at Saturday's box score, where the Nationals win 3-1. The Cardinals only get 3 hits in that game. And in that game, Goldschmidt gets a single, Martinez doubles, and Paul DeYoung in the restless, he went 1 for 3. Those were the only 3 hits. Ozuna is 0 for the series. Molina is 0 for the series. Fowler 0 for the series. Wong 0 for the series. Carpenter, it just goes on. It goes on, and Stephen Bishop would say, on and on. So now we look at what's coming up today. I've told you the pitching matchup. Tomorrow, game 4 from our nation's capital, it'll be Hudson against Corbin. I think that favors the Nationals. Wednesday is a game played only if necessary. I think this game, today's game between Flaherty and Strasburg is the series. If the Cardinals win today, I guess they're resuscitated and they have a slim chance. But if the Cardinals lose today, I can see this thing over on Tuesday, and the Nationals would have off through the weekend. How many days off would they have? Because the American League Series could go through Sunday. The World Series would start next Tuesday. So if they win it tomorrow, they'd have an entire week off to rest their pitching, to line up their pitching. Strasburg Scherzer, Corbin, Sanchez, the bullpen. I mean, it's just lining up for Washington. That's why I think Washington, I think they go all out today trying to win. Good morning to everybody in the chat room. And it's just one of those days where if you're a Nationals fan, you're loving it. I go back to June when the Nationals were struggling and people were writing them off. And the Nationals catch fire. And I watched the Dodgers series. And the funny thing about the Dodgers series, not ha-ha funny, but interesting funny, is you have someone like Howie Kendrick who early in the series couldn't catch a cold. Yet, in the closing phases of the series, hits a grand slam that provides the winning margin in the decisive game set 5. I mean, that kind of redemption for a Howie Kendrick. And now you've got a Trey Turner on the big stage for the first time, the former North Carolina State Wolfpacker. You've got all these players rising up to a different level because it's game on. I'm looking at what they did Saturday when you look at Turner going 2 for 4, Eaton going 1 for 4, Rendon 1 for 3. It's not so much the quantity of the hits as it is the quality. And how about a guy like Michael Taylor? Robles injured hamstring, so they insert Michael Taylor. Saturday is a 3-1 victory, and Taylor gets a homer in the third inning off of Adam Wainwright. Difference in the game. Scherzer goes 7, strikes out 11. Doolittle, Corbin, and Hudson off paternity leave gets the first save of the series. Doolittle got one on Friday night. So their bullpen just seems to me to be patchwork, sure, but coming together, definitely. And then I look, as I said earlier, the Cardinals' total inability to hit the baseball. Not only are they not hitting base hits, they struck out 12 times on Saturday. Fowler struck out twice. Goldschmidt struck out twice. Ozuna, again, no hits in the series, struck out twice. Carpenter struck out twice. Edmonds struck out twice. DeYoung and Wainwright strikeouts apiece. You got to put the bat on the ball. And is it so much the Cardinals not doing it, or is it just as much or more the Nationals pitching not allowing them to do it? And if you're watching these games, Cardinal pitching hasn't been bad. I mean, Miles Michaelis, 6 innings on Friday, only 1 earned and 7 strikeouts, which for Miles Michaelis, that's a lot of strikeouts. On Saturday, when you look at what Wainwright did, I mean, he pitched a whale of a game. His line, 7 1/3, 3 earned, 11 Ks. I mean, he threw 99 pitches in 7 1/3 innings. 73 were for strikes. So he was very efficient. The bullpen, Miller and Helsley, pitched an inning and 2/3, struck out 5 of the 4 batters, 5 batters, no walks, no hits, no runs. So Cardinal pitching has been almost as good as the National pitching. But the hitting has been absolutely horrible. And you can't go into a 7-game set like this one and all of a sudden, you're a Monstar. Remember the movie with the cartoon characters, Looney Tunes and Michael Jordan, where all the NBA players lost their talent? And then Bugs Bunny to the rescue. Okay. It's like a Monstar movie. Space Jam 3, featuring the St. Louis Cardinals. And it's time for them to wake up and start hitting the baseball. Now, challenge is on because they're not facing a slouch in Strasburg. I mean, Strasburg, arguably, and I think he has been, the most reliable and the most consistent pitcher all year for the Nationals. And now he toes the rubber at home in probably the biggest game of the year for the Nationals. They win today, series over. Series over. They lose today, they're still in it, no doubt. But don't you know they'd love to knock this thing out at home in front of the home crowd? Washington has struggled for the last several years getting past the first round of the playoff. This is the first time they've ever been the Washington Nationals in a National League Championship Series. Score today, anybody got a prediction? You know? I mean, it's Good Morning NYC 2RV. Good morning, Lenny, Andrea, Zelmo, Donkey Okie. Donkey Okie says Strasburg for Cy Young. He's that good. So, I'm watching the game today. My money, if I'm betting money, is on the Nationals. The other thing, Flaherty has never had this kind of pressure in his career. And he's a great talent. But he's on the road in a hostile environment in a game that the Cardinals have to win. I can't wait to see how he responds to that situation. No better pitcher in all of baseball since August 1st. Do we agree? If you combine the stats, stat-wise, since August 1st, no better pitcher than Jack Flaherty. I was going through my baseball cards yesterday, and I found an autographed Bowman Gold. Yeah, 12 out of 25. Jack Flaherty. So I'd love for him to do well today. My baseball card autographed may go up in value. Could you see a 1-0, 2-1? Definitely. I mean, that's 2-0 and 3-1 have been the scores in the series so far. This is not going to be a high-scoring affair today. At least not, I don't think, among the starting pitching. What if you get into the bullpens? Another story. Now, so far, so good for both teams. But do you really have a lot of confidence in either of those teams' bullpens? I don't. And that's why I think you're going to have these starters go just as long as they can, as long as they're effective. And if they're both effective, you could have, seriously, 0-0 in the seventh inning. Not much of a fan's game if you love offense, but strategy, pitching, today's game, and it's all on the line. So, I still like the Nats. The Cardinals are playing, they're like a wounded animal that you've backed up in the corner of the cage. How do they respond being backed up in the corner of the cage? We'll find out, won't we? Great series. I mean, you got to love the fact if you're a Nationals fan, or the Nationals have just never been this far. And of the four teams left standing, this is the team that has no current history. I mean, before they were the Nats, they were the Expos. And if you think about the greatest season in Expo history, would have been 1994, the strike season, when there was no World Series. The second best season for the Expos would have been in 1981, when Rick Mundy shatters dreams of millions in Canada. And so here we are with the third most probably productive, important, fun season for Expo Nationals fans in their history. And I was watching the game with my brother, Jeff Zimmerman for the Nationals, the only original National, started in 2000, I believe 2005 was his rookie season. The Expos moved the year before, so there are no Montreal Expos on the current roster. Those guys have faded away into the sunset, but a lot of Nationals. So let's keep our eye on that series today. Now, the one we're all talking about this morning. The Yankees and the Astros. When you look, Zelmo says, bring the Expos back. Viva Expos, right? When you look at the Yankees and the Astros, and going into the series, I mean, you're talking about two juggernauts offensively. You're talking about two really good pitching staffs. The Yankees, I guess, would have on paper, the advantage when you get into the bullpen. The Astros have the two stud starters in Verlander and Cole. Offensively, though, you can't ask for more. And so we go into We go into Saturday night's game. Yankees-Astros in Houston, game one. You got, the pitching. You got Greinke on the mound for Houston. You got Tanaka on the mound for the Yankees. A slugfest to be sure, but not. Tanaka, great game. And my brother, I think, is going to be here with me to talk about the Yankees-Astros in just a moment. But Tanaka pitches every postseason unlike his regular season. His ERA in the postseason for his career is half of what it is during the regular season during his career. 1/2. That's the kind of performer. When the lights are the brightest, Tanaka is at his greatest. And he goes into Houston with the orange towels flailing in his face all night long, and he allows one hit. One hit. So, Tanaka pitching the game of his life. The Yankees had to win one. And we're going to talk a lot about game two here as soon as my brother joins me in just a moment. But the Yankees had to win game one. And they did. And they did it in grand style. You can look at the hitting. And I got some problems here with Giancarlo Stanton. I can't wait to talk about that with my brother when he gets here. Kevin will be here shortly. But Giancarlo Stanton comes out game one, homer opposite field. And then last night, the bum sitting on the bench with a sore leg. Are you kidding me? Can you imagine? I harken back, and I don't want to steal anybody's thunder, but the Yankees had one of their greatest warrior players back in the 90s when that dynasty team was playing. He had a bum hamstring, but he didn't come out of the lineup. And here we have Giancarlo Stanton. They keep showing him on the bench, hadn't shaved in a week, sitting over there, looking at the game from the bench. The Yankees could have used him last night. But no, I've got a sore quad. Come on. Get in the game, man. But it was classic baseball. Verlander comes out smoking. Now, I had a little problem. Do you guys get irritated with the announcers? Jack Buck and Smoltz, they got this crush on Verlander all night long. Verlander's a great pitcher. But come on. We know how great he is. Let's talk about the at-bats. Let's talk about the pitches thrown. Let's talk about the strategy. Let's talk about the players playing in the field. All they could talk about was how great Verlander was. At any rate. My brother's joining me. We're going to talk Yankees, Astros. Kevin, good morning.
Good morning. It's an early morning after last night. As Yankee Nation, a little disappointed with that result, but the Astros and Carlos Correa with that walk-off home run in the 10th, it's a great game. It's what we expected. I feel like they're going back to New York now, and Houston's got to feel good. They've got the unhittable Garrett Cole, as he's been told, on the mound, and the Yankees come back with Luis Severino. That sets up as a classic. You had Aaron Boone last night going for it, taking out James Paxton in the third inning. He'd gone 2 1/3 innings, and I don't disagree with that. You manage different when you get to the playoffs. He was trying to, and it worked, except for a pitch that Ottavino hung to George Springer. It worked. And they did a good job, but Houston's pitching. You got to give Houston. Of course, Verlander pitched well, but their bullpen did the job too.
Well, I want to talk about Boone's moves last night. Aaron Boone, as you just said, takes out his starter in the third inning, brings in the bullpen. I like that move. I don't second guess that at all. I was reading this morning, getting ready for the show. And there was talk about Paxton tipping his pitches. And we were talking, you look back at games against Tampa, Glasnow. It was like, and I read this, the Astros knew when Glasnow was throwing a curveball. They knew when he was throwing a fastball. He was tipping pitches. And last night, you had Big Maple tipping pitches early. Astro hitters knew the pitch that was coming, or at least that's what I'm reading this morning. So you take him out. And I think it just threw off the total mojo of Houston early on. Because after you change pitchers that early, I don't think anybody saw that coming when we started first pitch last night at 8:08 p.m.
Well, you're in a series like this that it looks like it could be going the distance. Did 2 years ago. Both teams are better than they were 2 years ago. And you've got to establish not only every inning, try to win every inning, but you've got to establish the mindset of we're in a war. And you send the message to your entire team when you take out what it amounts to your ace the last 2 months of the year, the way he pitched. James Paxton, taking him out in the third inning with one out, you're saying, okay, guys, we're in beast mode, savage mode, if you will, for the Yankees. We've got to respect every at-bat. We've got to try to win every inning. And for the most part, that was the mindset for both teams. They battled each other. It was classic October baseball. The Astros, as we know, they didn't win 107 games and not be a team that would fight back. They showed last night exactly what they're made of. They've got the great starting pitching. Justin Verlander does his thing again in October. The Yankees matched zeros with them, could not come up with the runs when they needed it. Now we go to Game 3, which is traditionally the swing game in any 7-game series. Joe Torre said that all the time about Game 3 was the big game. And you've probably got the two guys on the mound that maybe have the best stuff, if you will, or at least the most dominating type stuff. Of course, Cole's in a world of his own, and he's throwing 99, 100 and breaking the ball off and just looking unhittable. And Luis Severino only threw 4 innings against Minnesota. It'll be interesting to see how many innings he can log tomorrow afternoon. But Luis Severino looked great, especially that Houdini act he performed against the Twins when they had bases loaded and nobody out. He's throwing the ball hard, throwing the ball with some conviction. You've got the bullpens will have a day of rest. Game 3 is huge. Houston probably needs it even more than the Yankees, but the Yankees need it because Houston, they're champions. They can come back and win another game anywhere. Yankee Stadium, the Yankees got to take 2 or 3. Maybe need to take them all because it's tough to win at Houston. They won that game 1. Can they win 2? I don't know. There's so many storylines of this. Just can't wait to see what happens.
Yankee bullpen last night. We'll talk about the bullpens for just a moment. Yankee bullpen went 7 2/3 innings after Paxton came out. Only gave up 3 hits in 7 2/3. Struck out 11 in 7 2/3. Of course, you had the walk-off homer by Correa. But other than that, the only other reliever to give up any hits was Ottavina, who gave up the home run to Altuve. But you look at Canely, pitched great, 2 1/3, 2 strikeouts. Britton pitched again, his second game in a row. Chapman pitched the ninth, struck out the side. Sabathia came in, the only batter he faced, got him out. And that's where I can see Sabathia's role going forward. He'll be a spot lefty specialist kind of guy. Losuaga didn't look well, but let's talk about him for a moment. It was interesting the way Losuaga exited the game, the way Boone spent time with him on the mound. What do you take of that?
I thought that was a very good point. Boone spent extra time talking to Losuaga. Word is with the Yankee brass, this guy's got great stuff. We've seen it. He throws in the high 90s. Confidence is big in October. Confidence is big anytime. But especially when you're in this kind of environment like they were last night at Minute Maid Park, the crowd was going bonkers, and you've got a young kid out on the mound who's not faced that before. And, of course, when he faced Altuve, it seemed like everything was set up outside, and he was hitting that outside corner about an inch or 2 off the plate, and he walked Altuve. Then he goes 3-0 on Bregman, but then comes back with 2 nasty 98, 99 two-seamers. Then at that point, he loses Bregman on a very close call. So he walks 2. He doesn't really accomplish anything. But I think the Yankees know just how important every pitcher in that bullpen is going to be. Now, John Smoltz irritated me a little bit with his love and praise, as you mentioned before, of Justin Verlander. And I know that Verlander's just about ready to pass Smoltz for the all-time strikeout mark in postseason history. Last night at some point he was about 187, I believe, with his 7 strikeouts. And Smoltz has 199, so he very well could get him this year, possibly, depending on how many more games he goes. However, Smoltz did make a good point. It will be interesting to see in a long series how Houston adapts to the Yankee bullpen. If they can adapt to the bullpen and have some success. Now, they scored 2 runs off them last night, both off solo home runs. But I think the Yankees bullpen did show how effective it can be. And with the offense that the Yankees can muster now, I don't know how much they're going to muster in Game 3 because Garrett Cole, undoubtedly looks unhittable. But Game 4 and Game 5, you got Greinke probably Game 5. Who knows where Houston or the Yankees are going Game 4. But you got to like the Yankees offense at Yankee Stadium in any game where the pitching is a question mark.
I tell you, I was looking at Houston's bullpen last night, and a lot has been said about Presley this year and the long streak he had where he gave up no earned runs. But last night, watching Harris come in right after Verlander, watching Osuna, watching Smith, who was really impressive to me, watching James, who picked up the win, that Houston bullpen to me is better than advertised. And I was really impressed with Smith, who really can't break glass. He throws 79 to 80, but he was spotting that ball down low in the zone with a little bit of sink. Yankee hitters were totally off balance. So as much as you and Smoltz were talking about Astro hitters adapting to Yankee bullpen, I'm wondering about the Yankee hitters adjusting to the Astro bullpen. I don't think they saw these guys a lot this year, the ones I just mentioned. Sure, they saw Presley. Sure, they probably saw Osuna. But the Harrises and the Smiths and the Jameses of the world, they look pretty good.
They did. And, the Yankees have got a few guys that are locked in. That top of the order with LeMahieu, Judge, and Gleyber Torres, who all 3 of those guys are as tough as anybody in the playoffs right now. They're all hitting the ball well. Judge, he hit the 1 home run last night, just missed another. He just missed one the night before, and he's got 3 hits already in the series. Plays an incredible right field, just an incredible player. LeMahieu, we know what he can do with the bat and has done all year. And then Gleyber Torres, probably the best hitter in the playoffs at this point. So those 3 guys are producing. Edwin Encarnacion looks like he's struggling through the first 2 games. Giancarlo Stanton had a great first game. You don't know what his status is going to be with this, as you mentioned earlier, with this quad injury. Gary Sanchez, struggle city. He did have 1 hit in Game 1, but last night just had very bad at-bats until the last at-bat. And I thought that was interesting because he battled James, as you mentioned before. He's been pitching really well for the Astros. And they got a lot of looks out of that last night. But then on 3-2, a little questionable strike call in the outside corner, but those things happen. But Sanchez needs to lock in. He could be, as many of these hitters on both sides, could be the difference. He's a much better hitter than Houston's catcher Chirinos, and he could be a difference maker. That's where the Yankees may have an advantage. Gregorius is another player. We go back to New York. He's got that swing for the short porch. He could be effective. Looks like Correa's locking in on the other side. Of course, you got Bregman and Altuve. Another guy that probably falls in the same category as Gary Sanchez for the Astros would be Yordan Alvarez. We know what he can do. He looks like he's playing a little bit like a rookie these first 2 games. You mentioned last night while we were watching that Aaron Judge did much the same thing 2 years ago, struggling mightily against the Astros in that ALCS, going something like 3 for 32 in that area. And Alvarez last night was overmatched by the Yankees pitchers. Zach Britton made him look foolish there with his last at bat. Paxton got him early. Of course, Tanaka got everybody Game 1. This series already, it's not disappointing. It's already obviously 1-1. You're splitting. You're going back to Yankee Stadium. both of these teams can win any game they play. They both got dynamite offenses. I think the thing that will really be key is how well Severino handles the pressure, and can he put up zeros against Houston? Because Houston's going to be ready to hit the ball, and Severino has had those innings where he just doesn't have it. And Game 3 is so crucial. And last night, Paxton, although he didn't pitch well, at least he didn't give up the big crooked number. He gave up the 1 run in the second, and had second and third and 1 out, and was able to get 2 strikeouts. So minimizing the damage, because the Yankees, as now going to be interesting too there, I don't think Boone in Game 3 is going to be apt to go to the pen as quick as he did last night. So Severino is going to have to give them a little bit of length. And I mean, I'm not saying he's got to give them 7 innings, but he's got to give them at least 5. Because you cannot afford, they've got 3 games in a row now. This is the first time they'll have that. They've had 2 off, and then, of course, they swept the Twins, but they would have had 2 and then off again. But now you've got 3 in a row. So he's going to have to manage Game 3. He can't go 2 1/3 with his starter and come in with the bullpen at that point. And then you've got Garrett Cole that you're probably not going to score a lot of runs, if any, off of, that you want to work up his count, but you've got to stay close.
I want to think about some hitters here for both teams that I say right now they're living in the land of the lost. No hits so far in the series. 0 for 7, Yuli Gurriel. 0 for 7, you just mentioned him, Jordan Alvarez. For the Yankees, you've got Edwin Encarnacion, who is 0 for the series. And you've got Gary Sanchez, who only has 1 hit. He's 1 for 9, and he went 0 for 5 last night. So these 4 hitters, all important in the order. Encarnacion, clean up for the Yankees. He needs to get it going. He struck out 3 times last night. He was late on fastballs that were very hittable, did not look good. Alvarez for the Astros. I was watching his at bat against Britton last night, late in the game, 8th inning. He had 2 strikes on him. Britton throws a curveball, slider, it was a breaking ball that bounces probably in the right-handed batter's box. It was that far off the plate and down, and Alvarez swings at it. And you just hit on it. I think the rookies, as Lenny would say, a rookie is a rookie is a rookie. And here we're seeing Alvarez look like a rookie in probably the biggest stage of his career. I want to switch focus real quick. Go back to the game today, National League. I talked about it earlier before you came on with me. Chat room, let's hear it. I think that today, if Strasburg beats Flaherty, this is a sweep. I don't see the Cardinals rebounding from that. As I said earlier, they are 4 for 57, an .070 average. The 2 of the 4 hits are by Jose Martinez, who's only been a pinch hitter. So the starters are 2 for 55. And I'm looking at some stats here against Strasburg this year. Okay, and I know this is limited, but here you go, Cardinal fans. I'll give you 4 hitters who are hitting over 300 this year against Strasburg. First of all, Marcell Ozuna, 11 for 35 with 2 homers. That's a .314 average. Hitless so far in the series. Kevin, how do you see Ozuna faring off against Strasburg today?
Well, it's a lot like Garrett Cole we're talking about. When Strasburg has his good stuff, he is almost unhittable. I feel like the Cardinals will come in with a focus today. There's something about being down to, human nature quality is always there. You got your Yadier Molina over there who's been through these wars before. He's going to take some leadership today. I think you're going to see Dexter Fowler, who's been in these world wars before, take some leadership. And, of course, your big guns are Goldschmidt and Ozuna. The Cardinals won 3 of 4 at Washington when they came back there, but that was in late April and early May when we all know the Nationals were scuffling and playing really bad ball. They also took 2 of 3 later on. Those games are over. Washington has hit a different level right now. They're playing hot, so I think you can kind of wipe that out the window. However, today's game is absolutely crucial. It is Game 7 wrapped up in everything for St. Louis. They've got to win today or it's over. So it's a do or die. Gotta get it done, and I think they take that mentality. The good thing for St. Louis is they've got Jack Flaherty on the mound. I think he shuts down Washington today. I think you're going to see St. Louis win the game today. Then it's going to get interesting because St. Louis can go in with the mindset here at Washington is, let's take 2 of 3. If you take 2 of 3, then you get back to Busch Stadium and you're able to go with Wainwright in Game 6 and then Flaherty again in Game 7. Give yourself a chance.
Well, you got to win. I want to go back to the chat room. Phil Chaplin, good morning. You say there's a familiar voice. Well, it's good to see you there. Zelmo, Donkey Okie, and Bigelow on the prowl. Good morning, good morning, good morning. And so we're talking Cardinals, we're talking Nats. Big game. Now, we disagree. I think that Strasburg steps up big today. I think the pressure on Flaherty, he's never had to pitch in a pressure cooker, elimination almost type game. Strasburg, I think he's got a little chip on his shoulder. I think he's finally able to show, I'm the man. And let's face it, Strasburg came in number 1 draft pick in the amateur draft. And he's had injury-plagued season after injury-plagued season. This year, healthy the whole year. He's been the man. He's been the one pitcher the Nationals have relied on regularly. And now he's at home with the fans cheering him on. Rah-rah, win one for the Gipper kind of thing. And so I just think it's going to be a classic today. A classic. Let's look at some more stats before we close out the show. Matt Carpenter. This year, now we know Carpenter, and for us in fantasy, and my brother being one who has been a Carpenter truther, he held on to him when no one else would. But then, of course, alas, he finally let him go. But Carpenter this year against Strasburg, 4 for 13. That's 308. How big a role does a Matt Carpenter play in a game today for the St. Louis Cardinals?
Well, you've got several Cardinals that are scuffling. Carpenter, of course, Ozuna. You've also got DeYoung. You've got to have guys to step up. And I think early, you need to step up early. When you're down in a series like this, if Strasburg can come out, to your point, if he can come out and put up zeros through the first 3 or 4 innings, the pressure just continues to mount. You can look back on the 10-run first inning the Cardinals had against the Braves. Of course, that's an anomaly. You're not going to score 10 runs against a team in the playoffs very often. For that matter, you're not going to score 10 runs in an inning against many teams. However, the point being, you get a 2-run first inning. They could come out and put up a crooked number or even get a run. It would kind of settle them in a little bit. They've got confidence in Flaherty putting up zeros. It's not like the Nationals have hit the cover off the ball in this series. They've pitched pretty well. It's just the Nationals have pitched so phenomenally, they've not had a chance to win these games. You got to believe, I guess I'm, playing fantasy baseball. How many times do we play teams or guys and they go 0 for 0 for 0 for, and then you don't play them the next day and they go 3 for 4? Now, the playoffs are a different animal. You got great pitchers every night out, and the Nationals definitely do have their great collection. However, I just feel like that with the numbers that the Cardinals put up, the fact that they know they've got to win, I don't think there's that much difference between these two teams. And on the mound today, I think the talent of both pitchers is great, and I don't think it's so one-sided for Strasburg over Flaherty, because I think Flaherty's got as good a stuff as anybody in the game. He is young, but I think today the Cardinals rise to the occasion, and they will take Game 3, and then Game 4 gets very interesting.
So we'll see tonight at 7:30 on TBS, St. Louis at Washington, Game 3. First pitch is at 7:38. Flaherty and Strasburg from our nation's capital. It's great to be with you this morning. I want to thank Kevin for being here. I want to thank everyone in the chat room for tuning in. We got a lot of baseball to go, and we'll be talking baseball this week. So I want to thank you. Everybody have a great